Professor Nimbadri Garu, Professor Tirupati Rao Garu, Professor Tilak Garu, our Principal of Government Degree College, Begumpet, and all the participants and faculty members who are present here. A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I must take this opportunity to appreciate the principal as well as the faculty members of Government Degree College, Begumpet, who have put together this two-day conference. I would say on a very important and relevant topic, which we are all grappling through in these present times. I think it is important for everybody to get together to discuss and debate about how do we move forward in the field of higher education, especially in the context of the disruption which we had due to COVID-19. In fact, we have all gone through this disruption which has been caused. In many ways, this has been very, I would say, harmful for the academic career and the learning of the students. Because of almost 2 years, there was huge disruption of the educational institutions. In fact, in the sector of school education, many analysts feel that these 2 years have resulted in almost a 3 to 4 years relapse in the learning levels of the students, especially in the school education. Because when you keep learning, you are up to date. But when you stop learning, you also tend to forget whatever you have learned in the previous classes. And that is very difficult to overcome. Even in the higher education sector, we have gone through this type of disruption, wherein though we all went online, I must appreciate all the faculty members that they, in a very short period of time, you all learned how to use computers, how to use the online methods of learning, and went online. But then on the student side, though in the initial phase of lockdown, almost our attendance was 60-65%. But once the lockdown opened up, but our institution did not open, the attendance levels were just 30-35% on an average. And that means that almost 2/3 of our students did not have online access. Of course, some of them had some, they were able to watch some recorded lectures because they were put on different platforms, maybe through YouTube, maybe through the other social media platforms, maybe through WhatsApp. But then they were not able to participate live in the class. And I think our agenda now has to overcome these learning levels immediately, so that the batches who are presently there in our colleges, the loss should be minimized. So that is, I think, one very important agenda in front of us. Two would be that the students who would be coming into our institutions in the next few academic years, because they also have a loss of learning in their inter colleges or in their schools. They would also not be up to the mark when they enter into our institutions in the coming years. So we again have to have a proper strategy as to how do we bring them up, and at least there are better outcomes compared to what it has been. So these are, I would say, the most immediate challenges in front of us. Of course, COVID has also had a very positive impact in many ways on education sector. In fact, if you really look at the positive side of it, because every coin has two sides. Similarly, COVID also has the negative side, which I pointed out, but there is also a positive side. And the positive side is that the integration into education sector, which was missing in the past, has now become very high order. In fact, so much so that I don't think this interconnect of technology and education which we have now seen would go back. Of course, the methodology will, because we were forced to be completely online, and I don't think completely online is something which has worked very well, or is something which in the next few years would be the only method of learning. So what most people feel is that the way to move forward would be a hybrid mode of learning, a blended mode of learning, wherein we combine the best of the classroom as well as the best of technology together. Because classroom is something which cannot be replaced as of now. We have not got any technology as of now which can fully replace the classroom, because the rich interaction which takes place in the classroom doesn't take place in the online world. And this interaction is not just this interaction from the teacher to the student, what the teacher gives to the student, but I think as teachers you also imbibe a lot from the students also, as to how they are doing, how they are learning, the questions which the students ask. Many of them would be asking very innovative questions. In fact, I remember of a couple of years back we had a program of this Jigyasa. Jigyasa is, those who are not from the government colleges, this is our flagship program wherein group of students prepare project with the help of a faculty member, and it is project based learning. So we had invited the Dean and Director of IIT Hyderabad, and he was telling very interesting, he was telling that his classroom session is all about students asking questions. So on an average in a classroom, students ask 10 questions, 7 of which he is able to answer in the class itself, but 3 questions even the director of IIT is not able to answer. And he tells that these are the things which he will be taking up in the next class. So in between that, he spends his time on looking at those 3 questions. Because profile of, I have also been through the IIT system myself. The profile of students is such that they will ask anything in the world, and it's very difficult for somebody to really answer well unless one really knows what somebody is asking. So he says 3 questions are my agenda for the next class, and that is how I keep myself updated, because these 3 questions help me also to learn. So that's what I'm trying to say. A classroom is not just about one-way communication between the teacher and the student, but also a teacher also learns a lot from the students in terms of how the students are asking questions or how the learning levels of the students are. And then this peer-to-peer interaction which takes place in the classroom or in the campus is something which we have all been missing during the COVID period. Because classroom and campuses are also about imbibing life skills, which can only come from interacting with each other. Ultimately one has to work in a physical environment. It's not an individual work, it's all teamwork, and the teamwork can come only when students learn to interact with each other, and you not just learn academic skills but also, as I mentioned, life skills. So physical classrooms are not going anywhere, they're going to stay. But I think what we need to add is how do we supplement this physical classroom with what we have been doing during COVID, and that is what the blended mode of learning is. In the sense that if the student also has access to some content, then the student can watch this content at his or her pace, at his or her timing. There will be a fast learner, there will be a slow learner. And our teaching is mostly pegged at the average level of the students. So both the fast learner is frustrated in the classroom, and also the slow learner is frustrated, because fast learner finds it too boring, the pace of the class, and the slow learner is not able to keep a pace, and he's in a different world, he or she is in a different world. And I think in order to ensure that both of them, both the fast learner as well as the slow learner are also able to keep pace, we also have to give supplemental content to the students. And I think that has been missing as of now in our system. We have had this system of recommended books. In most curriculum, you will find a list of 5-6 recommended books which students can study. But I think we have to move into a time when we also provide recommended content also along with our physical class. And that is the direction into which institutions and universities have to move forward. So that is one. Two, as has been mentioned by Professor Limbadri as well as Professor Tirupati Roy, and I missed what Professor Tilakaru has. Okay, is after. So I have not missed his. Is that the future is all about now flexibility. And we have taken few steps in our state in order to ensure that students get this flexibility. So much so that in Begumpet, where we had about 10 to 12 course combinations, now you have more than 50. Course 56 course combinations you are having. In fact, we have seen examples of students where the principals were requesting the students that why don't you change this combination, because there are only 1 or 2 students having that combination, but the student is so particular that no, I want to study only this combination. And I think it's a good thing, because for us it doesn't matter, because our bucket system ensures that your classes can happen parallelly. So whether a student is going into X class or Y class, it doesn't matter. And that's what our innovation is, that by making subjects into 4 buckets, we have allowed now students to choose as per their wish. And we have also been able to combine arts and sciences also, which was hitherto absent in most of our institutions in the state. But I think we have to now, with time, we have to go further ahead. So much so, I think that the boundaries of subjects also have to now kind of go with. This rigidity of having only 3 subjects, I think we have to move into a full-fledged CBSE system. And I am not saying that it will come in 1 year or 2 years, but at least that goal we have to keep in mind, that full CBCS system is choice-based credit system. If I want to take up a class in physics, I can take up. If I want to take a class in political science, I should be able to take up. If I want find some other subjects interesting in another area, I should not be constrained with this 3 definitive subjects. I should be able to go beyond. We have some elements of it in terms of general ethics, but I think the future will all be about that. And unless until you provide that, there will be somebody who will be providing, and students will move into that direction. In fact, lot of the changes in our government colleges came because we started providing what students were wanting. And when we started doing that, we were able to leverage the full power and the potential of our government colleges, so much so that our strength has increased multiple fold. Almost in last about 4 academic years, we have had a 67% growth in our student admissions in our government colleges. And as Professor Tirupati Rao said, I can confidently say that most of our government colleges in the state are first choices for the students. Only when they don't get admission in our government colleges, they go to private colleges. Most parts of the state, like we can only count on fingers some 5-6 colleges probably in Hyderabad who would be coveted. Some of them are not on those also. So we have been able to do well because we have tried to provide students what they want. And I think with time we have to bring in more and more flexibility in our system. In fact, we are now having this conference in Osmania. I can tell you that though he's not present, the VC of Osmania, he is working now on ensuring that multiple streams can enter into a PG course. So this rigid requirements of having so many credits in a particular subject will no more be the criteria for PG. And I think that will percolate downwards into the UG also. Once we get out of that at the PG, we will probably be going down. And multiple entry, multiple exit is something which the NEP provides, and UGC guidelines, some of them have come and some are coming. And this is also something we have to keep in mind, because now students will be able to enter and exit at the time when they want. So exit after 1 year, student can exit after 1 year with a diploma, so with a certificate, after 2 years with a diploma, after 3 years with a degree, and after 4 years with either with a professional degree or an honors degree or a degree by research. And I was reading recently that UGC now also planning some exit courses for each of these, so that there is some takeaway for such students, because our system is as of now designed as a progressive system, that in the second year you build up what you have learned in the first year, and the third year you build up what you have learned in the second year. So if a student has to exit out, then we also have to make sure that it is not just building up, but there is also a takeaway at that level, and that will require curricular changes also, which the institutions and the universities will have to work on. So this is the whole gamut of this flexibility and multiple entry, multiple exit approach. And finally, I want to say is that increasingly we have to make our education system more and more outcome based. The principal was just not talking about when they had this placement drive. Very few students registered for it, and those who registered, again very few people came in, and those who came in also, or those who got the jobs also, not all of them are willing to join. I think we have to understand what are the goals of the students when they enter into our education system. I would prefer if that happens before they enter, in the 11th or 12th class itself. Many countries do that. But okay, since that is not something we as a system are handling, at least we can look at doing it when the students enter into our system. When the students enter, what is the goal for the student? There are 4 or 5 possibilities. Either a student can become an entrepreneur, or maybe look for a job in a private sector, or maybe look for a job in a government sector, some competitive exam, or the student wants to go in for, let's say, higher studies in order to become a teacher, maybe one pathway, or it could simply be that the degree is the terminal thing for them. They just want to make sure, especially, and it's a social reality, so please don't mind when I say that. Especially for girl students, a degree becomes a terminal thing, because the marital prospects, and this is a social reality, is what we have to keep in mind. Because of the marital prospects, a girl has to be a graduate in order to have a good match, and that may be the thing which you may be encountering a lot in your college. So we need to understand what are the goals, or what are the ambitions of these students, and then work accordingly. For a student who wants to become an entrepreneur, if you provide what you are going to provide for a student who wants to go to higher education, obviously that student is not going to be interested. Or a student who wants to get into a competitive exam, and then you provide him a very, very high theoretical input which is not going to be useful for this, again he or she is not going to be interested. And that's that's going to come in two ways. One, as I mentioned, flexibility. Two, I think it's time to have more and more such skills as credit courses. If you want to become an entrepreneur, add some courses as credit courses which help the student to be an entrepreneur. Let it not just be a before or after the campus program. And this is something which in fact Professor Limbadri is part of it, which we have tried to do it in the new curriculum which we brought it in 2019. Many of these skills which were peripheral skills, which were being taught on the periphery, we have tried to integrate into our curriculum as credit skills. For example, our entire English language now has become a communication program rather than a literature or a language program, which doesn't help most of the students, especially science and commerce students who want to go into the job market. A lot of our other skills also, basic computer skills, advanced computer skills, basic managerial skills, advanced managerial skills, we have added to make sure that students are able to do these programs as credit programs. But I think it's time to go beyond, time to customize programs for each of these set of students. And then only I think the students would actually be tempted to come to the class. Otherwise, if we are not providing what the student wants, we will only be forcing the students. And once you do that, finally, I think as Professor Tirupati said, you have to make the classroom an interesting affair. And I think the best way to do that is to make it more and more interactive. More and more interactive. Try to bring out the spark among the students as to what do they want out of a particular class or a particular topic or a particular subject. And I think if the classrooms can become more and more interactive and more discussion based, we have to move from providing simple information to make it a more meaningful and a more learning affair. And I think that is the need for the present times, because information today is available in our hand. You want information on any topic, you can just Google it. For getting information, you don't need to go to a library today or buy a book or come to a classroom. You want information on any topic, just Google it, you get it. Why do you need to come to the classroom for that? You want to come to the classroom if you want to really imbibe various aspects about that topic. And that is how our classrooms of these times have to change to meet that need. We have to transform from providing basic simple information to becoming to providing learning. And once you do that, I'm quite sure that as Professor Tirupati said, students will definitely come into your classroom. And once you provide them what they want to learn, once you have your entire curriculum structure in a way that meets their needs, they'll definitely come. Why should they not? And I think that is an agenda ahead of us, which cannot come by one teacher or by one institution. I think the system collectively has to work to do that. And I'm very happy that multiple stakeholders are present in this conference, which will help provide that. And with these few words, I thank you for inviting me, and I'm sure that this two-day conference will provide a lot of answers to how do we move ahead in ensuring that our higher education system is not only relevant but effective.